My top nutrition tips. So these are things that I actually actively do on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to give you an insight into what I currently do to match my goals, what I've done in the past, what I've learned, and what makes my diet, my nutrition, my goals seem pretty easy to stick to. I do not feel deprived. I do not feel restricted. I feel like I can be pretty flexible with my diet. Have I been in a place in the past where my diet was very, very strict and miserable? Absolutely. But that's where I've learned all these tips, and that's where I can help you. So, without further ado, first one. You may have heard this before, but fail to prepare and prepare to fail. And this applies to nutrition. If you do not have a plan in place, then the chance of you doing something to work towards your goals that's going to be constructive and efficient is probably not going to happen. Okay? You need to have a plan in place. So being able to prepare. So in this regard, we're talking about nutrition. So being able to meal prep, setting aside time, whether that's once or twice a week, setting aside an hour or 2 hours or parts of the day where you can actually prep your meals or plan out whatever that looks like. Some people have the luxury of being able to prepare everything at home as is. Most of us do not do that. We have other responsibilities, we may be kids, jobs, travel, etc. So being able to prepare your food ahead of schedule is going to help you a ton, and it's going to keep you on track. Unfortunately, chicken, broccoli and rice is not going to appear out of the sky, although I guess you could get a meal prep company and that does kind of help, although it won't be getting delivered out of the sky, but it will help your case. But in relation to what I do meal prep Sundays. So on a Sunday afternoon, I'll make a list of the things I'm going to prep. Actually, prior to that, I make a list of what I need to get. So all starts at the grocery store. So typically we go to a wholesaler and I'll bulk buy a bunch of stuff. And then I plan out what I'm going to have. It's really easy because most of the meals I have throughout the week are very similar. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see the meals I eat are, honestly, they're the same things, especially breakfast and lunches. Like, they don't really rotate much. Dinners, I do kind of try have a bit more variance. I usually typically vary like the fruits or the veggies and the carb source. Protein source typically stays the same, although it's something I'm trying to get better at, is not just having chicken for every single dinner. But hey, I know what I like, I know what works, and I don't need to fix anything if it's not broken, so I kind of just stick with it. But on a side note, it is something I'm trying to get better at, is having something, salmon or maybe a steak like once a week. But anyway, going back to the meal prep Sundays, I make a list of what I'm going to prep, and I have a spouse who works from home, so typically I'm kind of preparing for him as well. So usually I'll bulk prep, steam broccoli, I'll bake some sweet potatoes, not bake rice, that wouldn't be very good, cook rice, so boil rice. I like the basmati rice, but you can cook whatever rice you like. And I'll also do some protein, typically that is chicken. I'll either cut it up into pieces, into chunks, grill it, or put it in a slow cooker where it's more like shredded. I've been loving that recently, and also that's great. I sometimes even cook that overnight, and I love the slow cooker. If you don't have one, I highly recommend it. You can set it and forget it, and it's so easy, so convenient, and the chicken comes out so tender. So setting aside time for your meal prep it's key. It's so underrated, and like I said, it doesn't have to be this grand 3-hour chore. Make it fun. Usually I put music on, or we have the golf on in the background, and I shout through and I tell my husband to keep me updated with anything exciting happening, and then I'll come running through if someone holds a putt or shanks something. Anyway, but I make it exciting, and usually I'll put I'll have a Coke Zero, and I'll just kind of lose myself, and I enjoy it because it's the act of working towards my goals. I don't view it as a chore. It's I'm making the effort. I'm putting time in for my health, my fitness, my goals, and this is part of the process. Okay, people forget that. The process is so much bigger than just training and quote unquote eating healthy. It's managing your stress, managing your sleep, managing your mind in the gym, concentrating, being able to meal prep, being able to read menus, all that good stuff. So another thing that I love to meal prep is my protein oatmeal, or proats. If you follow me, then you will notice that I have this pretty much every single day. And what I'll do is on a Sunday, I'll prep my oats for 2 or 3 days. And it's so easy. I just do my oatmeal, add my protein powder, add whatever toppings. Typically, I'll add the fruit the day before or the morning of. but I've got the bulk of that meal prepped. So the oats, the protein powder, usually I'll put like peanut butter and like chocolate chips on it. But all that is already prepped. So all I need to do is add my fruit and take it out of the fridge, add the fruit, and I'm good to go. So, and this is not a skill that I just say like just for meal prep for nutrition. I encourage clients to prepare as much as they can for anything. You know, whether that's scheduling it in your calendar, like when you're going to work out, that's laying your clothes out the night before. Again, that is something I do. It's one less thing I have to do in the morning. But being prepared takes the heat off, and you're more likely to do it. So in this case, we are talking about nutrition. So being prepared with your nutrition. Write a list, go to the store, get the ingredients, meal prep, be prepared as much as you can, and roll with it. It makes life so much easier. Next tip is delegate. If you are fortunate enough to have someone that is willing to help you, lean into that. I'm speaking for myself. I am pretty, some people may call it stubborn. I say independent, and maybe it's a bit of both, I don't know. But I like to do things for myself. I like to do things on my own, which is not a bad trait at all. But what I am learning is that, one, life is a lot easier when you have people in your corner willing to help and support you, expecting zero in return. And two, it's a lot more enjoyable. Actually, I'm going to add a third one in there. Bringing them into your loop will likely benefit them too, providing that you're bringing them into a healthy loop. So, for example, my spouse is incredibly helpful in terms of making sure that there's plenty of chicken in the freezer, or there's plenty of eggs in the fridge, or I have plenty of my avocados sitting and waiting for me. I always joke that I literally go to the store maybe once a week, if that. He's the one that does all the shopping, and we kind of work as a team, and I would say most of the cooking. However, he is still very good at preparing things. You know, it's little things like making sure the veg is chopped up, or, you know, preheating the oven. Whereas when I come home, I can just put the sweet potatoes in. That happened yesterday. That's why it's coming to my mind. But he's very good at helping me and making sure that I'm staying on top of my goals. And what I've noticed in him, if he is listening, what a difference in his diet, in his ability to navigate his nutrition to suit his goals. It's amazing. And it's almost happened naturally. It's not like he was like, oh, I'm going to do this because you're doing it. We kind of naturally found this good routine of, you know, I meal prep on Sundays. He kind of does the shopping when we're low on food. And he recognises when things are needing chopped up or needing done. He's very good at washing dishes. If I'll give him that. That's definitely up to him. But being able to delegate, having someone in your corner that can help. And that doesn't have to be an actual person. That can be a meal prep company. Although arguably that's people making it, but you get my point. But what I'm getting at is getting help from outside sources, okay? It helps a ton, and it takes the pressure off you rather than you feeling you have to do every single little thing. It's something I recently learned as my schedule has gotten busier and busier, that there comes a point where there's trade-offs for everything. You know, when you add something into your schedule, something else has got to give. And I was finding like, holy crap, I cannot juggle all these things. So leaning into my spouse, I did kind of trial a meal prep company for like a week. I didn't really like it, honestly, and wasn't worth the money. So I've kind of just been like, okay, I just need to prepare better. But leaning into that will help you a ton. The third thing, and I kind of already mentioned this at the start, is bulk buying. And maybe I should have put this point at the very beginning, because it does start at the grocery store. But one thing that we do, like I said, we shop at wholesalers, and we try to get as much as we can from the wholesaler, mostly because it's cheaper and we don't have to constantly keep going back to the store. I understand that money and eating healthy can be expensive. However, arguably it can also be very cost effective if done correctly, which we try to do. So we go to a wholesaler and we'll buy bulk. You know, we always joke that we've got this like big like sack of basmati rice sitting in our cupboard, which is really funny because it is literally like I don't know how heavy it is, but it's a good few pounds. A big sack of rice of basmati rice. So if anyone needs some rice, let me know because I've got plenty. But we buy all that because it does save money, and when it comes to like meats and poultries and even fruit and veg, we'll freeze it. Okay, so we're saving money, plus we have things at our disposal. So that's something I definitely recommend, especially if you If you have staples in your diet, like I said, I do oatmeal a lot, chicken. Usually we'll buy like a big like fillet of cod or salmon, and we'll cut it up and freeze that. I know we've got ground beef in there. Eggs, my husband goes through a crap ton of eggs, so we always bulk buy our eggs from the wholesaler. Egg whites as well, that's a big staple in my diet. So the staples in your diet, try your best to get them from a wholesaler, and that way you don't have to keep going back to the store multiple times a week. You've got them in your freezer, got them in your fridge. So that's my next tip. The next one is find what works and what you enjoy and stick with it. Like I said, if you follow what I eat, it's nothing that exciting, although it does amaze me how many people compliment my meals, and I'm like the laziest chef ever. I hate following recipes. I just don't have the patience for it. I'm the type that's going to look at a recipe or look at a photo and be like, oh, that looks really good. Scan the recipe, like skim it, and then I'll just try and replicate it, and I'll kind of add my own spin to it. I like to just be creative with things. But what you'll find is I find what I like, I find what works, and I'll stick with it. For example, my protein oatmeal, you'll see me eat that pretty much every day. I've recently gotten on like a Greek yogurt kick, although I've always had Greek yogurt in my diet recently. I say recently, it's literally started this week. I'm doing that for a breakfast now. Like I'll do Greek yogurt mixed with like half a scoop of protein powder, chocolate of course, like chocolate protein powder, and then I'll add a banana or some fruit. And then I'm really liking like the almond slices just now. Again, I bought them from a wholesaler, so I've got a big bag of them just now. And then I'll do some like crushed dark chocolate as well, and it is so good. And then I've been doing my protes for my lunch, and then having like a big, hearty veggie based meal for dinner. Typically, if you follow me, I'm loving like my cauliflower rice. I ate that a ton pretty much every single night for dinner when I was on my cut. And even now, as like I'm transitioning out, my hunger's kind of all over the place. So the days or the nights that I do feel like I need to have a bit more voluminous food, I'll lean into my cauliflower rice, and I'll put like a sweet potato on the side. That's what I had last night, and it's probably what I'm gonna have tonight as well. Avocado as well. Like I love like topping everything with avocado. It's fire. But moral of what I'm getting at: find what works, find what you enjoy, and stick with it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Okay, if it's working for you, keep it. People tend to fall into the trap of making sure that every single meal is something different, and it's got to have these crazy like sauces in it, and then they're like, holy crap, how do I track my sauces, and how do I track all these ingredients? I'm like, if that works for you, fine. However, I recommend you can make really tasty meals by not putting in that much effort. Does that mean that I don't have these tasty meals where I experiment and add some like sauces or some different seasonings and things? Absolutely not. Usually when I've got a bit more time, like on the weekends, I try and do something different. And that's actually one of my New Year's resolution, is to try new recipes, which so far, not going that great. Although I did make healthy cookies, which I may post the recipe if anyone's interested. They turned out pretty good. But in terms of like actual dinners, I don't think I've cooked anything new. But pending. But getting back to what I was saying, I do try and cook something different on the weekends. I spend a bit more time, and it's not necessarily like we're eating like something I've prepared in advance, if that makes sense. So doesn't mean you have to live off your meal prep. I don't expect my clients to, but meal prep definitely helps, and finding stuff that works for your busy days is definitely something I recommend. Leading into my next point, and this is still somewhat related, and this is something I kind of fell into the trap of when I first started getting into nutrition. So this is going back about 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I was trying to actually make gains in the gym and actually see my hard work pay off. And this is where I learned a lot from nutrition. But finding what's simple yet effective. And what I mean by that is your fruits and your veggies. These are so underrated in our diet. It is unbelievable. And what I want to bring up first is, especially if you were trying to lose body fat, lean into your fruits and veggies. They are extremely low calories, they are full of micronutrients, and they are very high in volume. So going back to my cauliflower rice, I would have half a bag every night, which was like 170 grams, and I would add, chopped up peppers, tomatoes, whatever it is, into that, plus my chicken. And it was, if you see my portions, they're bloody huge. And if you know me well enough now, I've got a big, big appetite. So I need to, I love fruits and veggies. I lean into that, because if I didn't, I feel like I would be starving all the time. And also I enjoy it. It makes me feel good because I know I'm nourishing my body. I know if there's micronutrients in it, but I also feel like it's more of a placebo effect as well, because I know I'm taking care of my body by feeding it these good, healthy, hearty foods. But all in all, no matter what your goals are, having enough fruits and veggies in your diet is so underrated. And again, I do not buy the healthiest or organic fruits and veggies. I use frozen broccoli all the time. As a treat, I'll buy fresh broccoli, which honestly I've not done in months because we go through so much. And the frozen broccoli is fine. I do buy fresh peppers. I'll buy a big thing of mushrooms from the wholesaler every so often. Obviously fresh bananas. I go through my phases with apples. I've been off it for a while, but now that I've mentioned it, maybe I'll go buy some. But you can buy pretty much every single fruit and veggie in the frozen aisle. Berries, frozen berries, I always have them. Blueberries and strawberries. Again, way more cost effective. Don't have to worry about them going out of date. But they complement so much of what we do in our goals, but also just overall health. And I had this conversation with a client the other day. At the end of the day, goals are secondary to our health. When I'm working with clients, my primary objective is to get them healthy, whatever that looks like, whether that's losing body fat, it's gaining muscle, getting their hormones regulated, getting them stronger. Health is priority. Your goals, if that's aesthetics, is secondary. So, for example, if you are someone who is trying to lose body fat and you're trying and you find that you are low in energy, you start viewing your body negatively, you lose your menstrual cycle, it's not healthy. So getting you back to a place where you are healthy is primary, okay? Because if you don't have your health, you've got nothing. And that's what I try to help my clients with. I try to get them in a healthy spot so they can fulfill whatever purpose they have in their lives. Getting a little off topic here, but going back to fruits and veggies, they are so underrated. So make sure you are putting them, I like to have them every single meal, just some sort of portion, but make sure you are eating an adequate amount of fruits and veggies in your diet. Okay, last one. So I've given you a lecture about your fruits and veggies and keeping things simple, saving money, all that good stuff. But what about the fun stuff? Okay, so that's my last point, is leaving some room for some fun, leaving wiggle room. Again, if you know me, I have a huge sweet tooth. Now, there are things I do throughout the day and throughout the week that help with this, absolutely. As you'll see in my proteins that I've spoken about, my Greek yogurt, I do have a ton of fruit, which helps. But do I ever have things that are quote-unquote unhealthy? Do I ever indulge in cakes or cookies or even alcohol? Absolutely, I do. If I didn't, I'd be miserable. I'm just like you. I live a pretty normal life and I like to have enjoyment. However, I do love the self-discipline that being a trainer, being an online coach, being aspiring bodybuilder has. Okay, so I love the self-discipline. However, I've definitely been in a place where I've restricted myself so much that it bit me in the arse. It ends up, you kind of backfire, and when you do quote-unquote mess up, if I did indulge in something that was quote-unquote unhealthy, an immense amount of guilt would follow with that. So now I'm at a place, it took me a long time, but I got there with help of others and with a coach, where I can fuel my body and I can enjoy foods with zero guilt, okay? And one thing that really helps me with this is tracking. And I actually recently made a post on this that you can go on my Instagram and look back on that, on the benefits of tracking your food, tracking your macros. And I find it extremely beneficial. It did take me a long time to get to a point where my tracking didn't cause me stress or rigidity. But like anything, it takes time. Anything new, it takes time to kind of settle and get used to it. And it can cause some friction at the start. I do tell clients when you start to track, it can be a little bit uncomfortable. That's where having someone there to kind of coach you through it and talk you through things, why you're feeling a certain way, and navigate the challenges is really helpful. But being able to track and knowing that I'm kind of within my range, even if I do have meals or food that is not on plan per se. For example, On occasion, I enjoy my whiskey. I factor that in. I pre-log it. It's in there. I enjoy it. No sweat. Same with, chocolate cake. I had cake last Saturday as part of my refeed day. I probably indulged in a lot more than what I planned and what I logged. But what I did was I just bumped some calories from the day after, and it kind of factored everything out. So tracking is such a great tool because it does kind of keep you within your range. But it gives you the freedom and flexibility to factor in foods that you would enjoy, rather than just viewing your diet as, I'm just going to be nothing. Not that there's anything wrong with being mindful, but being mindful, I see people fall into the trap of everything's got to be perfect and quote unquote clean. That's not the case. Okay, but hopefully those tips helped you. Like I said, this is not for everyone. I'm just giving people a background and insight into what I do. Now, this may not work for you. Hopefully you do find some value in this and you can apply it into your own health and fitness journey. But the overall message I want to get across from this episode today is don't complicate it. Make nutrition easy. If you can figure that out, your goals are going to be easy to come by. Okay, results will follow. Nutrition is by far the biggest challenge. It's 9 times out of 10 when I'm working with a client, nutrition is the hardest part because it's something we have to navigate every single day. And as our goals change, as our bodies change, there's a lot of psychology attached to it as well. So being able to navigate that, it can be quite daunting. But hopefully these tips helped you. Let me know if you try these, if you have any other tips that you want to share, please reach out. As always, if you have any ideas on episodes or any questions you want me to cover, if you can catch me on my Instagram, just send me a message on there. The link is below. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up the episode there, and I will see you guys next week.